definitely exhausting my years as a stripper. There's like a stripper span for some, for most. It should be, anyways. Am I really that much to handle? All right, y'all. So I recently made a post, that fairy post that went crazy viral, right? And it was just a joke, but it's still going viral. I know, crazy, right? But another question that I get under that post is, oh, she was dancing. Why did she stop dancing? Well, outside of the fact that I was definitely exhausting my years as a stripper, there's like a stripper span for some, for most. It should be, anyways. Um, I just knew I always had in my mind that I want to stop dancing by the time my son is 16. And by the grace of God, I was able to make that happen. And only Lord knows that it was for because of God that I was able to make that happen. Because honestly, I never thought that I would not be dancing. And the way that I just randomly stopped dancing, I had no plan. I had no strategy. I didn't have a whole lot of money saved. I just randomly stopped dancing. And that was nothing but God. I could do nothing but lean on God because I did not graduate high school. I didn't even go to high school. I didn't go to college. I'm talking about I barely. I didn't go to college, didn't go to high school. So I didn't have any educational background. And that always, that was an insecurity of mine. So I didn't know what else I would be able to do that would make me the same money that I made as a dancer. I've been dancing since I was 18. So money was, at my fingertips for a long time and a lot of it. So I created a certain lifestyle for myself as well as for my family. So it was always scary to me, like, what are you gonna do that's gonna make this same money? At one point, I was investing in the music career, in my music, and I thought that was gonna take me out of dancing. Like, I put all my bets on that, to take me out of dancing, but God had other plans. I was still doing the TV thing, but that's just one check. You need multiple checks to really sustain the way that I created my lifestyle. So, never in a million years did I ever like, I didn't have I've always thought, like, when I stop dancing, we're gonna have this big old retirement party. We're gonna be hanging the tip drill jersey like Michael Jordan did his. Like, that's how I envisioned myself when I got done dancing. It was gonna be a big old thing. However, just randomly, I woke up one day and I was like, I'm never going back. I can't do it. Number one of the reasons that propelled me to stop is social media. Social media was becoming big. I was on my last leg of dancing when social media was growing and, cameras started being everywhere. I've been wild. I've been young. I've been turned for a long time, made a lot of crazy decisions, but I didn't want to be all over social media naked. And back then, people the security guards used to snatch customers' phones out their hand for filming the girls, especially if you was a customer that wasn't tipping. Okay. And I was always scared of it getting all over and my son seeing it. So that's how I knew, like, my son being 16, social media is out. I need to figure this shit out, what I'm gonna do next. Also, another thing was I had very bad anxiety, okay? The reason I drank so much while dancing is because I had social anxiety. Like, I would have to get pissy drunk to go on stage or to even just to mingle with people because I have social anxiety. I used to have to talk myself in driving to work. I used to have to pray so hard because I had to turn into Tip Drill or, later on Miami Tip to be social, and the drinking was just becoming draining. And then I got tired of that anxiety. I would get up until the last day that I stopped dancing, I would get butterflies in my stomach every time I was called to the top side. Okay. Whenever the DJ said Tip Drill, stand by, butterflies would be so deep in my stomach. It was to the point that I would pray that the DJ would skip me, but I knew he wasn't going to skip Tip Drill, but I knew he wasn't gonna skip me, but I was just so scared. The anxiety was really, really, really bad. And then shit, unfortunately, after about 14 years, I finally got tired of it. So one day I had like on my last leg of dancing, I was falling deep. I was going into a dark space. Like, I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be around the people. I was just trying to figure out what I was gonna do because it kind of felt like everything I invested in wouldn't flourish the way that I wanted it to flourish. So that just made me, unmotivated and just gave me like high insecurities of like, what am I going to do? But I knew that the time was coming. My son was about to be 16. And, everybody on the internet is like, oh, Tip, you still dancing. You've been dancing, da 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 da. And I would act like I don't see it or it didn't phase me. But, it was eating in the back of my brain. It's like, all right, girl, like you about to be 30 over the hill, girl. Like, what you going to do? So randomly, I had like a really crazy week of drinking and going to work. And I just woke up one day because of the anxiety. Like I had my clothes on, my bag, everything. I was going to work, but the anxiety was killing me. And I was just like, you know what? You're not going. We're not doing this. You're not going back to dancing. I did not even have a plan. I didn't have a strategy. I didn't have a whole lot of money saved. And I just was like, God, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I give it all to you. I just asked God to order my steps and crazy, like, man, blessings on top of blessings. And when I made that decision, it was like a veil was lifted from over my head. Everything was bright again. And I just, I've always been a hustler. So I just started hustling in different ways, putting the energy that I will put into going to work into other hustles that was like in a short span were just as lucrative, almost as lucrative as it was going to work dancing. It definitely was able to sustain me. And once I kept consistent and I kept my faith in God, it was like I was getting bigger opportunities. Now I've always gotten big opportunities and I've always had chances to get out of the club. But because the club was my crutch and because of my ego, like people will offer me opportunities that will help me for my future. And I would have an ego like, oh, you only paying me $1,000. I could go to work and make $10,000. I could make a phone call and make $1,000. I'm not doing that. But not thinking about how big how it could have taken me to the next level to where I wouldn't have to dance again. And so I was just stuck. The club was my crutch. It was my safe space. So I just wouldn't go anywhere. And then that day I just woke up randomly. I was like, I'm not dancing. I cannot do this no more. I will not go back. My son, was about to turn 16 and he was turning 16 the next year, I believe. Or he had just turned 16 because I that day was November before the pandemic hit. That it was November. And then the pandemic hit in March. From November to March, November to March, I was partying my ass off. Like, cause I was lost. I was scared. I didn't know what I was gonna do, but I still knew that I had to be Miami Tip. Miami Tip was known for being outside. If Miami Tip was on a liquor, we was gonna have a good time. Everybody, the vibes. And that's what I was used to, and that's what I was living up to. So I was lost, like in the wilderness, in the dark, from November until March. And in March, the pandemic hit. Now, I had bought these onesies. I had bought 50 onesies, the black and mild onesies I used to sell. I bought 50 onesies. I had them since before November. My plan was to sell the onesies, create an online boutique, right? And shout out to my friend who gave me that idea for the boutique because the boutique changed, like the online boutique changed my life. But here's the story. So I had these onesies, but I would walk by them. I never paid them any attention because I was making money as a stripper. Like those onesies, it was like, it's only 50 of them. How much money I'm going to make? Da, da, da. But I'm not seeing the bigger vision. So I stopped dancing in November. November to March, I'm just going out, spending my money. I see my bank account going lower, 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 lower. Then the pandemic came. I'm like, holy ish. What am I gonna do? Even if I wanted to go back to the club, I can't because they closed. Like, the media put out that the world was gonna be stopped. Like, I was just so scared. So thankfully, during that time, Love and Hip Hop had a reunion coming on. And I went live on Instagram. The pandemic is here. I went live on Instagram and I wore one of the onesies. I didn't have no Shopify, no website, no nothing set up. And I sold like 250 onesies during that live. Didn't even have no more onesies. I had the 50. So I lied to everybody. And I was like, oh, because of the pandemic, the post office is backed up. But really, I had to order more onesies. And so that's how I got into the online boutique. This online boutique, I'm making 30 grand a month, which was equivalent to what I was making as a dancer. And I was just like blown away because look at God. I don't have to go to the club to make what I was like. I don't have to go to the club to make this. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what I was going to do. And those 51 onesies had to have been there for like 8 months. So when I sold the 250, I had to hurry up. I called my friend, Google, shout out to Google. He created the Shopify website for me. And I went from there, took off from there. And I started ordering more and more onesies, different kinds, different colors. And for 2 years, those onesies sustained me. But that's how I stopped dancing. It was basically like I got drained, I got tired of it. That lifestyle, you will fall really, really, really deep if you don't have control, if you don't have an exit plan. You know what I'm saying? You will fall into living up to, people hyping you up because you that bitch, you making bread, you know what I'm saying? And you outside, you twerking bottles, da 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 da. You fall into that life, but then in reality, it's like you're not investing none of this money. You're not doing nothing with it. Like, what's going on? And soon my bank account was like here. And I'm someone that was making 30 grand a month consistently. Like, it was no way. But I think the way that it happened for me, because like I said, I planned to have a big old party and randomly I just stopped dancing and I never like had the urge to go back. Since that day that I said I'm not gonna dance, I have not been dancing. I have not danced. So that's 5 years. So, by the grace of God, I've been able to maintain, sustain, and given a whole lot of great opportunities. I'm a part of a lot of great projects. I'm creating my own projects. And I feel like making that decision to not dance anymore, it was the best decision of my life, By the grace of God, I didn't have to be the old hoe in the club. I was on my way there, shit, that was one of the other reasons I stopped dancing because girls was like, started calling me old hoe. You know what I'm saying? So it was time to exit. It was time to exit. Okay. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. It was just, it was all God, man. I can't even tell y'all like my journey. It was crazy. But yeah. So for everybody that was asking, why did she stop dancing? Oh, she was a dancer. I know that I was probably the youngest. They don't know the impact that tip drill had. But yeah, that was why I stopped dancing.